In 1957, a group of monks from a monastery in Thailand had to relocate a clay Buddha from their temple to a new location. The monastery was moved to make room for the development of a highway that had to be placed through Bangkok. When the crane came and began to lift the giant clay statue that had never been moved before, the weight of it was so tremendous that it began to crack. What's more, rain began to fall. The head monk, who was concerned about the damage to the sacred Buddha, decided to lower the statue back to the ground, cover it with a large canvas tarp to protect it from the rain. Later that evening, the monk went to check on the Buddha. He shined his flashlight under the tarp to see if it was staying dry. As the light reached the crack, he noticed a little gleam shining back. He thought it was strange. As he took a closer look at the gleam of light, he wondered if there might be something under the clay. He went to fetch a chisel and a hammer from the monastery, and he began to chip away. As he knocked off shards of clay and plaster, the little gleam grew brighter and brighter. Many hours of labor went by before the monk stood face to face with the extraordinary solid gold Buddha. Today it's worth $250 million. Historians believe that 5 centuries earlier, the Burmese army invaded Thailand, and then called Siam, and the Siamese monks received word that the attack was imminent, so they covered their precious golden Buddha with an outer layer of clay to keep their treasure from being looted. Unfortunately, it appears that the Burmese army slaughtered all of the Siamese monks, and the well-kept secret of the golden Buddha remained intact until that fateful day over a half a millennia ago, and discovered again in 1957. Well, according to Buddhism, we are all born pure with an innate nobility, beauty, and goodness. At the very core of our being, a brilliant light is shining through the crack of the golden statue, just like through that crack of the golden statue. Here you might ask, if we have this golden light within us, why do I have so many problems in my life? And why does the world seem like it's such a mess? Buddhism's answer that as time moves on, we pick up ways to be in the world based on our experiences and the experiences of other generations before us, beginning with our immediate families, the community around us, the nation, and the world in which we were born. You know, in the book of Genesis, the Torah, the Pentateuch, the first book in the Bible, God creates the world. And after his 6 days of creation, God sees what? Everything is good. Everything is blessed. This is the teaching given to Jews, to Christians, to Muslims. God's creation is good and beautiful. As Moses said in his farewell sermon, he's sitting atop Mount Nebo, east of the Jordan River. He's not allowed to go into the promised land. He says this, "See that God has set before you today life and blessing, death and curse. Choose life that you and your children and your children's children may live." It's the choices that we make in life that determine our lives, that determine our fate. Every choice has a consequence. And the choices we make are conditioned by our experiences, both the good and the bad. The people, the culture around us shapes us and molds us every day. And if we're not mindful and intentional about the kind of person we want to become, we can often become someone we don't want to be. My professor always said, you become what you spend your time with. Whatever you read, the people you're with, the music you listen to, the places you go, all of those things, and now social media, you become it in time. So be careful, be intentional, be mindful about what you're becoming. It's when we allow the way of the world to infect us in negative ways that we don't always make the best choices. The lyrics from a song that I was just playing, "That's the Way of the World" from Earth, Wind and Fire says it best. You will find peace of mind if you look way down in your heart and soul. Don't hesitate because the world seems cold. Stay young at heart because you're never old at heart. That's the way of the world. Plant your flowers. Plant your flowers and you'll grow a pearl. As we grow from children to adults, we start to cover up the light within us. The strife, the struggles we encounter in the larger society around us, the microaggressions, the racism that persists, the attacks on the LGBT plus community, the bullying, the hazing, and when we're ignored and devalued, and when the light within has been covered over, maybe because of the loss of a loved one dear to us. When all these things happen, we're deeply wounded. And then too often when we internalize all this abuse and trauma we've experienced, and the result is that we suffer. We suffer emotionally, we suffer psychologically, we suffer spiritually. And if we're not mindful, that suffering can turn into things like anger, resentment, sadness, fear, depression, and so on. And they become those new layers of clay and plaster that cover over who we really are. And what all of us really are at our core is something far, far more beautiful than you could ever imagine. And when the world tries to turn our heart cold, quote, earth, wind, and fire again, we build a fortress around ourselves and we lose trust. And when we lose trust, any community breaks down. You can't even have a democracy when you lose trust. By the time most people are half my age, they have so many layers of psychological clay plastered over them that they have forgotten their Buddha nature. Or they've forgotten that they were created imago Dei in the image of God, that they and you and I were all blessed with intrinsic goodness. The good news, though, is that you can peel away these layers and your basic goodness can shine through. And you will find that you are fundamentally, at your core, compassionate, accommodative, cooperative, and altruistic people. The belief that humans are, at their core, selfish comes from observing the ways humans react when they are bound and buried by layers of plaster and clay. But when all this is stripped away, our true nature is able to shine forth. Einstein asked a great question, far more important than any equation he was working on, and someone every one of us needs to ponder for ourselves, come up with our answer. The question is the world, is the universe friendly or not? Later in life, he hinted at his answer when he said, God doesn't play dice with the universe. The way we answer this question, and we may all answer it differently, the way we answer it will determine the way we live our lives. Either we will live with fear and not trust others, covering our lives with plaster and clay, or we'll live with discernment, which is good judgment, to trust the basic goodness of others and of the universe, and I would say of God. In striving to educate the whole person here at Taft, in mind, body, and spirit, it is our goal, I see it as my goal as a teacher, to reveal the wonderful gifts, talents, graces, the natural goodness that every one of you inherently possesses. But this takes work. A renowned Buddhist Zen master once said when one of his students asked him, does everyone have Buddha nature? Yes, everyone has Buddha nature and everyone is already enlightened. You're all enlightened, you all have Buddha nature, but we also have work to do on ourselves. With that said, let me give you one more image. Michelangelo's Prisoners in Stone at the Accademia Galleria in Firenze, Italy. In this gallery, there are 4 powerful statues named by scholars as the awakening slave, the young slave, the bearded slave, and the atlas-bound slave. They are in, some of you have been there, they're in this unfinished state. They were left that way by the sculptor on purpose. Why didn't he finish them? Michelangelo is famous for saying that he worked to liberate the forms imprisoned in the marble. He saw his job simply to remove what was extraneous. He said a sculptor was a tool of God who didn't create something, but simply revealed what was already there. In this case, the powerful figures were already contained in the marble. So what these 4 prisoners symbolize, and this is the point Michelangelo is trying to get across to the viewer, is the endless human struggle to free the soul from the physical limitations of the body and its appetites for the lesser pursuits, namely, and I know this is everyone's dream, riches and celebrity and fame that entice and lure the majority of people today. I think more than any time in history, we're lured by these things through social media. These sculptures, though, are depictions of the soul's quest or our desire for the finer, the more lofty things in life that Socrates and Plato and St. Paul talked about in the New Testament. Love, unconditional, selfless love, beauty, true beauty, goodness, courage, justice, and a deep concern for the well-being of everyone and Mother Earth herself. These are the higher, loftier things that the soul, that something in you, desires deeply. Like all the great works of art, these sculptures are metaphors. They point to something beyond what immediately appears to the eye. Michelangelo was not adding anything to these marble blocks. He was chipping away through many nights, not sleeping for days, even weeks, not removing his boots and wearing the same clothes, according to the chronicles of Giorgio Vasari, a fellow artist and painter. He was chipping away to reveal what was already there. He did this when he chipped away at those two masterpieces, the David, King David, and the Pietà. We say at Taft that we seek to educate the whole student. And one of the ways we do that is to try and remove the layers and chip away at that stone that is concealing something sublimely wonderful in each one of you. It is inside you, it's waiting to come forth. It will differ according to who you are because every one of us is unique. We're all deeply interconnected, but we're all deeply unique. There's something great in each one of you waiting to surface, waiting to be born. Each class you take, each book you read, each conversation you have with another student, teacher, coach, or employee here at Taft, all of your experiences in sports, in the theater, in the dorm, and everywhere, they can all be, if you are awake, if you are aware, if you are mindful of what's happening, they can all be like that hammer and chisel in the hands of the Buddhist monk or in the hands of Michelangelo, working to reveal and unlock your inner potential so that your life unfolds as a great work of art, which I know it can be. We're all works of art in the process. Yes, it will take a strong effort on your part, but education should be approached not as an ordeal, not as a grim task of chipping away at a rock face. Education should, as Mr. Taylor said to me at the beginning of the year, it should be playful, it should be filled with curiosity, it should be filled every day with wonder and awe. It's really important that there be a sense of joy in your endeavor to educate your mind, body, and spirit. But joy doesn't mean that we just have pleasant sensations, blissful experiences, or happy thoughts all the time. It's something much deeper than that. It's certainly not instant gratification. It took time for Michelangelo to reveal some of the great works hidden in stone. It takes effort for all of us to get up in the morning, to come here to morning meeting, to come to class and all of our after-school activities. It takes perseverance. But you chose to come here. Whether you realize it consciously or not, I believe every one of you wants to bring forth that golden core, that golden essence that is in all of you. So what is morning meeting? Morning meeting is our sacred time together where we explore a wide range of life issues through a very broad, inclusive, moral, ethical, spiritual lens. We have outside speakers coming to campus, maybe authors, they may be poets, they may be historians, they may be scholars, musicians, they may be filmmakers, and all the more with a message to challenge us, to make us think, to help us grow morally, intellectually, and spiritually. You don't have to agree with everything they say. You don't have to agree with everything I say or any teacher says. But you do need to be respectful. You need to listen deeply, not with the ears, but with the heart. Consider different perspectives and broaden your understanding on a particular issue. You know, often speakers will finish speaking and then they'll go to the faculty room for Q&A, and if you have free period or if your teacher brings your class, you can question them on the topic they presented. Engage in a robust discussion, if you wish. They'll often be standing down here in this little alcove, waiting, and when the bell, as it did this morning, it rings once, and the second time the person introducing them will come up. You clap as you did, and they come up and we welcome them. We want to give them that warm welcome, which we always do at Taft. But other times we won't have outside speakers. We'll have faculty members and students presenting in morning meeting. Remember, Tuesday and Thursday is different than the assembly. It seems the same. Assembly is just a different mood. This has more of a solemn, not a dour, but more of a solemn, serious tone to it. I guarantee you that you will find many of this year's guest speakers and our own local talent to be thoroughly stimulating and provocative. So enjoy this exciting year ahead in morning meeting and everything you do here at TAF, and have a wonderful day. Take care.